Welcome back to Built to Sell, Built to Buy, the show where we take you inside the deal-making world, whether you're preparing to sell your business or looking to buy one the smart way. I'm your host, Sam Penny, and today we've got one of my favourite guests. She's returning. It's business broker extraordinaire, Sally Stuart. Now, today's episode, it's a little bit different. We're going to go head-to-head or maybe list to list. We're talking about the broker's checklist, 10 things to do before you list your business. I've put together my top 10. These are the must-dos, I think, from my perspective, before taking your business to market. And Sally's done the same from her years of experience selling companies across Australia. We're going to compare, debate, and unpack each point. So by the end of this episode, you'll have a clear, actionable blueprint for getting your business sale ready and maximizing your valuation in the process. So let's dive in. Let's see where our lists match and where we might disagree. Sally, welcome.
Thank you for the kind introduction. I think it's a great topic and a great way to unpack actually what are the main top 10.
Excellent. Now, before we dive in, a quick intro. Sally, who are you? What do you do?
Sure. So thanks. I'm Sally Stuart. I'm a specialist business broker. I only work with doctors, dentists, allied health, aged care and NDIS business owners when it comes time for them to sell because they want to buy bigger, buy smaller, retire. Maybe they've had a partnership breakdown at home or in the workplace and it's time for them to sell. I'm the deal facilitator, so I can help their dreams come true so long as they've got a goal to work towards, which is what my first point is, Sam. So people need to have a reason to sell. And sometimes it's not till their back's to the wall, they get sick, someone suddenly passes away, or there's a breakdown. Don't wait. So develop a sales plan. That would be my first point. You need to define your why. Why do I want to sell? What is your goal? What do I want to do after the settlement when I hand my keys over? What will the future look like? Once you've defined your goals and your why, you need to then understand the market and establish some timelines to allow you to reach that goal. Now, you might say, well, at that stage and age in my life, I'm going to be 60. Can I retire then? This gives you time to work with your financial advisor and planner to make sure that you're doing the right things and you have the right strategies to sell your business for the best price at a time that suits you. And you get time and chance and opportunity to understand all the restrictions from a capital gains tax. Where you're going to put your money? How hard is your money going to be working for you when you sell it? And what are you going to do when you're not working there? So don't come to me and say, I want to sell tomorrow. Take your time, develop a sales plan. That's my number one tip. Sam, does it match yours?
I actually didn't have that on there, and I really like that because it is such an important place to start, isn't it, Sally? Selling your business isn't an overnight thing. It's not even 6 months. It takes 12 months, 18 months, 3 years to sell your business. You've got to get the whole business structure right. And when we're looking at the valuation of the business, we've got two sides to the equation if we're going for the EBITDA multiple. We've got the profit side and we've got the multiple side. And I think what you touched on there is, why do you want to sell? And because that is generally one of the first questions that a potential buyer is going to ask. Why are they selling? And there's often so many good reasons. There really isn't a wrong answer with why you want to sell, but it does give some insight into how the business is running. If they've lost their energy, if they've lost their mojo, or they can't see the opportunity for that business to scale further, they just find it too overwhelming. My first, actually, Sally, on my list was to get a valuation done, because I think that from a valuation perspective, it gives you a clearer picture on what your business is currently worth, but also what things can you put in place so that you're not missing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars when it comes to that sale.
I had that as number 2. So I'm not a registered business valuer. I can't give you a to the cent number. So I'm a broker and I can give you a market indication of the value of any of the practice that you're looking to sell. But I agree with Sam. It is an idea at the beginning of your process to know where your business sits, determine your EBITDA, your earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, and then look at your weighting factors, as Sam indicated. So it's going to be your profit multiple multiplied by the weighting factors, which will give you your EBITDA multiplied by the weighting factors outcome, which gives you your profit multiple and your range price for your sale. Now, these weighting factors, it might be, where is your business located? How long has it been established? What is the risk profile of this business in particular? What is the risk profile of the industry? What is the potential buyer demand? So you can see some of these are black and white. How long has it been established? You can't fudge that. Some of them are subjective. What is the risk profile of this industry? Out of 5, it might be a 4, it might be a 4.25, it might be a 3.75. So there is a little bit of a malleability, and you can tweak those because it is going to tweak your sales price. You don't want to come up with a multiple that's just silly. Like, no one is going to pay 10 times. And you can just use those weighting factors in to tweak your sales price. Some are subjective, some are black and white. We come up then with a range price, and then right, I know now that without adding value, as Sam can allude to, without adding any value now, if I was to sell now, my business might sell for, say, 500,000. But if I then have a plan and I have a business coach or a mentor to help me over the next 3 years, and then I sell in 2029, my business might sell for an additional $250,000, for example. And if that's going to go straight into your super, not registered to give tax advice, please talk to your accountant. Whatever you do with that money, it's going to be more. So certainly have a look at what it's worth now, make a plan, think how long you're going to give yourself because you're developing a sales plan first. And then in X many number of years, how much will it be worth? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Maybe, maybe not. But that's only an answer that you can come up with yourself once you've worked out where your goals are.
Yeah, certainly. And building that expectation right at the start really heads off a lot of those uncomfortable discussions you have to have with the business owner of, well, I want $1 million, and then the broker
but it's only
and
a
also
solo
the buyers. Yeah, exactly.
How am I going to get that? Yeah.
Yeah, and when we look at how a business is valued, particularly on the EBITDA multiple, the EBITDA, the profit, is rear focus. It's looking at what is in the past, whereas the multiple is looking into the future. And it's that multiple which really does provide the confidence to the buyer, because at the end of the day, the buyer is buying confidence that that business is going to continue on or improve into the future.
Especially if you include a SWOT analysis, which I think we might come up with a chat about later.
Well, number 2 on my list, Sally, is to clean up your financials, getting
that
the backyard.
That was my number 3.
Tidy.
Yeah, we're very aligned.
You must see it so often when a business owner comes to you, financials are in disarray, they've got personal expenses in there, their accountant has tried to do some nice, fancy, creative accounting to minimize the profitability in it. But when you're minimizing the profitability, it is counter to what that valuation is going to be.
Yeah, so I say to business owners, I have to do exactly the opposite of what your accountant has done. So I need to undo what he's done, put a mirror on it and back everything out to work out what the real profit is, because we want to maximize your profit to maximize your sales price. The other thing that I've seen recently, Sam, is a business go from a partnership to a proprietary limited company partway through a year. So if we looked 3 years in the rear, 2023 year was a partnership. 2024 was a combination of a partnership and a proprietary limited company. And 2025 was a proprietary limited company. So it has taken me probably 2 months for a buyer's accountant and banker to become comfortable with what it is that they're seeing. So potentially, had that business owner waited another 2 years until there was 3 years of financials that were all matching and easy to read and easy for all the third-party advisors to understand and get their heads around, it may have taken less time. But again, it goes back to what's your goals. He wanted to retire now. His business owner doesn't. We're on the market, but we do have an agreed contract now, and we are going to the lawyers, which is great.
Excellent. Right. Now, what's next on your list? Let's see if we align still.
Legal and regulatory compliance.
Okay. That isn't on my list. Oh, it is in a way, which is more about the IP side of things. Obviously, legals, and just like you highlighted there, where you've got a partnership moving into PTY Ltd, the legal structures of the organisations, the legalities around contracts with suppliers, employees. There's so many legal things that need to be tied up.
Exactly. The conversation I had before this one was with a business owner wanting to think about his options to come to market. And I said, can you tell me about your doctors? Yes, we've got 4.5 full-time equivalent. None of them are on contracts. I'm like, okay. And I get why a lot of doctors don't want to sign contracts, because I was around working with doctors when one of the large GP corporates had 242 internal legal cases with their own doctors that were trying to get out of binding contracts early, or what they thought was on time, and still not being able to leave. So I get it that doctors don't want to sign contracts. But with the current spotlight that we have on payroll tax, and are you an employee or are you an independent contractor, I think it's so important in this day and age to have the appropriate and correct contracts for each of your people, be they independent contractors or employees, just to be compliant. It's not just service agreements, it's also licenses. Do you have the right permits in place? So I sold a business last year. It was business and building last financial year, and they built it. I think they maybe bought off the plan, but they didn't have their OC, their occupation certificate. So they came to market without the right permits and approvals in place. So that was another couple of months of delay. And they were really tired. They were ready to retire, and it just delayed the whole process. When it came to the time to be getting that council document, it was around Christmas, New Year closes, and the lawyers are gone. They pack up and go to the beach from the middle of December, and they don't come back to the end of January. So it's really difficult to get things done with councils or lawyers, depending on the time of the year. So it's so important to have all your regulatory compliance before you come to market. Oh, yesterday I had a vendor. He's still got 2 things on the PPSR of the business that he's selling, and we're going to contract. So there's all these little things to think about. So there is a lot, and that's why you need a plan and a timeline, because there's so many things to get right before you come to market, and you only get one chance to do this. So ideally make sure it's done perfectly.
Yep, excellent. Now, next on my list is document your systems and processes, your SOPs, which really allow so much freedom within the business, but also structure in how the day-to-day operates. Particularly if you're doing a task more than once a week, that really should be part of an SOP, all of those repetitive tasks. But it also makes it easy to bring new staff in, whether they're a doctor, whether they're receptionists, whether they're people out in the field. The way that they operate day to day should be managed through a great set of SOPs. And if you want to scale your business, you can only scale with clarity and structure with a great set of standard operating procedures in place.
It's not on my list, Sam, I guess because it's in my space, it's almost a given. If you're an accredited clinic, you have to have all those documents completed. But it did come up during the Practice Success Collective, and also with the imaging grow and scale, that once you've created the perfect footprint, then you can grow and scale. So once you get it all documented, all the steps, all the SOPs, as you said, ideal for training. There's an amazing dental training system, which all dentists can use, and it's like each one teach one. So each time a person is accredited and signed off as being able to do that skill, then they become the trainer. So everyone has a skill set that they're fantastic at. Not everyone can do everything, but what you're great at, you train.
Yeah,
I really like that
fantastic.
system.
All right. What's next on your list?
My next one is tax implications. So doctors, dentists, allied health, aged care, NDIS, the people that I support work so hard to get to where they are. So many years of training, so much education, so much time, energy, and effort. So as I said, you only get one chance to sell this business for the best possible price. You don't want to lose half of it in tax. So we touched on it earlier, Sam, about the structure of your business. Make sure that the structure of your business that you're selling is set up to give you the best possible returns. Make sure you think about your age and stage in life when it comes to sale time. Talk to your accountant. So have a dream team around you. You need to have the best broker. You need to have the best accountant. You need to have the best lawyer. So don't engage a criminal or a family court lawyer to do commercial work. Equally, don't engage a bookkeeper to do, for example, supporting you doing a share sale of your company. So make sure you've got the specialist in the field around you, because those tax implications can mean the difference of several $100,000 in your pocket versus going to the ATO. And it might be aligned with the dates of your birthday. If it's business, if it's building, there's different implications. So in order for you to maximize the money in your pocket, please understand the tax implications when it comes time to sell by chatting with your accountant. Again, I'm not registered to give you tax advice, but I strongly encourage you to go and chat with your accountant.
I love the constant drops of disclaimers in here, Sally.
I say it every day.
Yeah, I could imagine. Now, it's very clear, Sally, from so far, we're only up to about number 4 on the list, but it's very clear that people need to prepare a long way out if they want to sell. They need to be looking 18 months, 3 years ahead if they want to be in that position to maximize their return. Like you say,
Correct.
getting the dream team around you, getting the right advice in early on to ensure that you've built this baby. It's your pride and joy in a lot of cases, and you spent years building your practice, building your business. There's no point having the tax man take half of it or leaving so much on the table because you didn't do the basics early on of things like getting your SOPs in, or your agreements and contracts, those kinds of things.
So that was actually my next one, getting the dream team around you, the right broker, the right legal counsel, and a specialist accountant to guide you through the sales process. Was that on your list, Sam?
It is. I've got engaged the right advisors early.
Yep, perfect. Start talking. Generally, the initial conversations with anyone doesn't cost you anything. So talk to people, get referrals. Who did you use? Were they great? Were they ordinary? Did they charge you? So someone told me yesterday, Sally, I've started talking to a lawyer, but they're charging me for every conversation and every email and every text message. So yes, some lawyers will. Other lawyers will give you a fixed fee. I always say, bring 3 lawyers, bring 3 accountants if you don't have a great one, bring 3 brokers, find the best one, find the specialist, find the one that talks your language. You want to work with someone that doesn't have the God complex. You want to have someone that you can pick up the phone to and say, hey, this kept me awake last night. Can you put some clarity on it for me?
Yeah, exactly.
They need to be approachable.
Yeah, that's right. And also, for example, working with someone like myself, a business coach who can work on the profitability over the next 18 months, 2 years, but also working on the multiple side of things of increasing that valuation, and all the other advisors like the accountants, like the lawyers, who ensure that that value that you've created in that business stays in your pocket. All right. What do you got next?
Marketing materials. So creating a comprehensive marketing prospectus or information memorandum to help you to attract the potential buyers. Now, we will get graphic designers to create this, but if people start thinking, what are the selling points of my practice? Then they can, with your help, grow those, enhance those. And you do a SWOT analysis as part of your marketing brief. So I started talking with a couple of doctors up in Brisbane. They came to me with 3 documents like this. Sally, we've had a crack. We've put some things down on paper. What do you think? This is the history of the practice. This is how it was. This is what it was like when we bought it. This is what it is now. These are the important steps that we've undertaken during the last 25 years. This is what it used to look like. This is what it looks like now. I said, that's a great base because that will give me a lot of information. It will help the graphic designer to create something beautiful when we actually are ready to go to market. And it gives you a sense of, I know when I write something down and you think about it, it's different to typing it. If you're writing it, think about what it is you're writing and then think about, is that the best? Is that the best way to sell my practice? Could I rephrase that? Could I change that? Is time going to change that? But certainly put down your thoughts on your business now. Think about so SWOT analysis is strengths. What are the strengths to your business? You can list a few of those. What are the weaknesses? And then maybe with Sam's help, you might be able to reduce that list and they might become strengths of the business. What are the opportunities? What can you galvanize? What can you enact and start and finish between now and when you bring that business to market? And you can actually implement some of those opportunities to add value. Like we said, we're increasing the sales price. Strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, threats. So threats, who's your threat? Can you do anything to mitigate that? Can you bring them in? Can you amalgamate? Is there options to remove that threat altogether? What can you do to protect yourself against that threat? So even if it's a threat being something large like cybersecurity, what are you doing with your staff? Can you implement twice yearly cybersecurity education and training for them? How can you make your business stronger? So yeah, preparing some marketing material before you come to market will give you an idea of what you can change.
Yep, I definitely had an IM on my list. And also, a strong part of that is creating a compelling pitch deck. And one of the greatest pitch decks ever written, I believe, is the Airbnb pitch deck. You can go and Google it. It's only about 8 pages, 10 pages, but so compelling. And one of the things that a lot of business owners overlook, I believe, Sally, is that they don't understand what their core values are, because their core values is really what drives a lot of their business, whether it's hiring, firing, the type of customers they attract, the partnerships that they have, the messaging in their marketing, but also that then starts to come through in the IM, in the pitch deck. And when you've got a buyer who's aligning on the values, you're going to have a greater, more in-depth discussion, but also they'll see more value in the business because they can picture themselves stepping into the owner's shoes.
And it might make for a quicker sale at a higher value because they can see it's been unpacked for them. If you can remove red flags, like what we want to do is for buyers to see a glossy business they really want to acquire. What we don't want is for a great buyer to look at it and all they see is red flags. So if you can do anything, help make the red flags go away.
Yep, definitely. Now, I had identify and resolve key risks, which touched on your SWOT analysis. I think it's always important, and this is what a business buyer is looking for. They're looking for clarity and openness in the discussions. If you're trying to hide something as the business owner, it's always going to throw up red flags. And if you try and hide something, the business buyer is just going to think, well, gee, what else are they hiding?
Right. Yep.
Yep. So being upfront with any of the key risks and not identifying them, I think that really does detract from what the ultimate sale is going to be.
So I had addressed the key person risks as well, Sam, so we can agree on that one. Identifying these allows you to mitigate them. So the other thing I think that you could almost link in there is identify a key risk person, but then have a plan or a succession plan for that person. So you might have the most amazing practice manager, but they are reaching retirement age and potentially sometime in the next 3 years, if you're getting your business ready to sell, they might take off and not be around for a whole lot of time because they're using their long service leave before they eventually, in the fullness of time, retire. And then you need to have someone who can step into that role whilst they're on long service leave and in preparedness for their retirement and transition out of the business. Because a lot of the time we see practice managers who are absolutely so fundamental in a clinic or a business that you're selling, If they retire and leave, if they have a heart attack, drop dead, if they get hit by a bus, God willing they don't, what's happened with that IP?
Mm.
If there's no one coming through the ranks, being trained, if there's no one being upskilled, if no one has been under that person's wing, then you've really got a risk there. If you don't identify it and do something about it, then it's going to leave a massive hole in your business. And a lot of people don't know what the practice manager knows. So same with your lead GP, your practice principal, or your clinical director. Do you have an exit strategy for that person? Do you have someone coming up behind them? So certainly I say to people, look, you need to sack yourself before someone else does. So if you're the only person that knows about everything, then you need to change that.
Yeah, and I think that this touches on a couple of points. One of our points that we both agreed on was the standard operating procedures. By having a very detailed standard operating procedures for the entire operation means that if any of these circumstances arise, a key person going on leave, for example, for an extended period, then someone can step into their shoes and fulfill the day-to-day. But also securing key relationships and contracts as well. And it's not just with your staff, it's with suppliers and customers. And obviously in your industry, in medical industry, Sally, GPs obviously aren't going to have contracts with their customers, the patients, but there is certainly a lot of other contracts that should be in place with things such as suppliers, lease agreements for one, and any other suppliers that are out there that are key to the operations where you don't have an alternative. For example, your lease agreement, you don't have an alternative to that if you're running a bricks and mortar.
Yeah, so in the last couple of years, we saw a worldwide shortage of carbon dioxide. So one of the people that had to get the priority for that was the medical centres. So make sure that you've got an agreement with your gas provider. So that is something that can transfer across. You don't think it's a big thing until you haven't got any. So yeah, I agree with you, Sam.
Yeah, exactly. And securing these contracts early on in the process really then will give the buyer a lot of confidence and future in what the revenue is going to look like, the stability of that revenue. Because remember, the buyer is buying confidence. They're not buying how you've performed the last 3 years. They're buying how you believe you're going to perform in the next 5, 10 years, however long they own that operation. All right, what else have you got on your list?
Understanding your buyer's motivation, which taps into exactly what you've just said then. They want to see the potential of the business. If you've done everything, if you've maximized the utilization of all your rooms, if you've done all of the things you possibly can to make this the best business ever, they're going to look at it and go, well, how can I add value? So think about what your buyer will be looking for. Understand their goals and what they value in a business. And it may be buying a business that is set and forget. If they're an investor and it's a fully managed business, happy days. But if you want to sell to a buyer that is going to come in and replace you as the clinical director of your business and the lead supervisor of any junior doctors coming through the FSP program or any of the other registered training programs, then that might not be what everyone wants. So think about, who do I want to sell to? That should be part of your planning as well. Do I want to sell to a corporate? Do I want to sell to an entrepreneur? Do I want to sell to a doctor buyer who's going to work in the clinic? Because that might impact on the things that you're going to do with a business coach before you bring your business to market, for example.
Excellent, excellent. One of the things that I've got on my list, Sally, is to tidy up your premises and assets.
Yeah.
Because too often,
Yeah.
I do feel that the workplace is a great reflection of how a business is run. And you would see it many times. The waiting room might be tidy, but if you go out the back, it's in absolute disarray. And that is a clear indication, usually, of how that business is run.
Sam, I remember once I went into a clinic and it had an orange carpet and it had plastic rolled out walkways. So it was directing you where to walk on the plastic over the orange carpet, and everything was in filing cabinets. So they hadn't migrated across to using online practice management software. So I walked in and it was straight away red flag, red flag, red flag. And I said, maybe I'm not the best broker for your business. I'm sorry, I don't think I can help you, because no one is going to buy that.
No, definitely not.
I've been into clinics where the wallpaper's been ripped off by the kids that have been sitting in the waiting room on all the chairs, which are mismatched, that they look like have come from garage sales. I've been into clinics. I'm selling one at the moment. It's like having a step back in time to some of these clinics. And I say to people, I want you to look at the clinic as if it was Sally's eyes. What would Sally say? So is it grubby? Does it have dead pot plants in it? Is everything mismatched? Does it present beautifully? Do you have rooms full of stock you don't need? Do you have rooms full of old hanging patient files? Can we get them out of here? Can we get them scanned? Look, this is again back to step number 1. Develop your plan, because it takes time to scan an old patient file. Have it on the cloud. Are you going to have it on the cloud, or is it going to be stored on-prem? Think about your IT. So there's so many things to think about. Do I have enough capacity to store all these old patient files, which I need to keep because I had a lot of pediatric patients and I need to keep them for X many years longer than a regular patient? So yeah, there's so much to think about, Sam.
Yeah, and I think it's always important for the business owner to put themselves in the shoes of the buyer.
Yeah.
And looking at it from their perspective, if I was going to buy this business, would I? And I think that quite often, when you can shift the focus and change your thought, your mindset in, okay, if I'm the buyer, would I buy this? What would I change? What's throwing up red flags? That there alone can really help the buyer understand their business a lot better.
The vendor. So I often say to vendors when they're coming to me with perhaps an unrealistic price, I've said to people multiple times in the past, would you buy your business for that sales price? And they think about it. There's a lot of silence. And I've had some people go, maybe. But if you can reframe, there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah. Now, one thing on my list, Sally, is to remove the owner dependency. And it is the holy grail, because when you can remove the owner from the day-to-day, when you can have a truly owner-independent business, it opens the business up to a lot more different types of buyers. You've not just got the practitioner, the mechanic, you've also got then the investors who are looking to buy that business.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mentioned that earlier, sack yourself before someone else does. And I had a vendor very successfully. He said to me, I would go away and I would take holidays and I would find out what my people couldn't do without me being there. And then I would address that. And then I'd go on holidays again. And then something else would happen. And then I'd address that. So it was important way of him being able to replace himself before he sold his business, which he did very successfully for a very good price at a very high profit multiple. So there's a lot of value in what you just said, Sam. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, I think it's important to point out there are different valuation methods for businesses, but for the majority of businesses, they're getting valued on profit times a multiple because they're generally a steady state business. There might be increases, say 10, 20% in revenue year on year. But if you can increase your profit by, say, $100,000 and you've got a multiple of 3, for example.
Yep.
Yeah. There's another 300,000 in value. Now, if we can then increase the multiple again by improving the confidence and reducing the risk in that sale to the buyer, we can quite easily be adding even more hundreds of thousands of dollars onto that business through things like everything we've been speaking about, SOPs, contracts, IP, the legal frameworks, all those kinds of things. And I think too many business owners neglect to see that they're leaving a lot of money on the table.
And another good thing to tie into that is do an appraisal first and then keep doing annual appraisals. Sally, can you update my appraisal? I've got my new year's numbers ready, new financial year. So it's easy to just add another year. And then we can look at, yeah, I'm growing in that direction, or actually your income is growing, but your expenses are not being addressed. So you need to, as you grow your income, you really need to focus on those expenses. And here's the line that's growing the most. What can we do about that? How can we tackle that?
All right. Have you got anything else on your list, Sally?
Yes, my last one
Yes.
is consider employee and customer impact. So you're thinking about how you're going to communicate the sale to employees and customers to ensure a smooth transition. Now, if it's a share sale, the only thing that changes is the directors, and people may not know that there's been a change at all. If it is a business sale of assets, being the goodwill of the practice, the goodwill of the practitioners, as well as any plant and equipment, then yes, people will know. I had a conversation earlier this week with a business owner who owned an NDIS business, and she felt that if she was no longer there, some of her participants would go elsewhere. So think about, and this goes back to the key person risk. How are you going to be able to have that conversation with participants or patients or customers? And is it going to be negative or positive? And is there anything you can do to mitigate that before the time happens?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think there's a couple of things that lead into this is firstly establishing your core values. And if you have a buyer who is aligned with the values of the business, the
Yep.
transition is going to be a lot easier. But also something that we just touched upon was making the business owner independent. So that the risk in the transactions of suppliers and customers walking away is greatly reduced. And clearly defined core values is going to provide so much greater loyalty from all sides, suppliers, customers, and employees. When everybody is aligned, they're all part of that shared vision of what gets us up day to day. How does this business operate? What do we stand for? What do we hate? What do we like? Once you've got a real entrenched set of core values, it's going to provide so much greater value that at that ultimate sale time.
Mm. I agree on all those points. And while you were chatting then, Sam, I just thought of two other things that I wanted to bring up just before we
Okay.
finish today. Have your contracts current. So don't come to sell your business without having current contracts. So I lost a big sale last year because they had 5 contracts. 3 of them weren't current, and they were waiting on clinical directors or clinical heads of hospitals, private hospitals, who were in a state of flux to be able to get to that document. So don't come because we don't have any value if there's no contract signed. And this goes back to your legal and regulatory compliance. Without signed contracts, you don't have anything to sell. And the final thing was workers' comp. If you've got workers' comp in your business and you're having a share sale, then it's a red flag again. So that just goes, I guess, to key person risks. If you've got a workers' comp person, get that person well, get them back to work, or transition them out of the business, ideally before it comes to market. Again, it's just another red flag we can do without.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sally. Well, Sally, I reckon we align pretty well. What do you think?
Very, very close.
And it's great seeing your list from the broker's perspective and my list from the business coach's perspective. We're both looking at businesses from a different lens, but at the end of the day, the alignment is absolutely fantastic and it just works. Sally, as always, this has been gold. I love that even though our lists overlap in a lot of areas, you've brought in some real broker-specific insights that most business owners probably wouldn't even think about until it's too late. Now, for those listening, remember, selling a business isn't just about finding a buyer. It's about making your business irresistible to the right buyer. And that starts well before you hit the market. Now, Sally, where's the best place for people to connect with you if they're thinking about selling?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn, Sally Stuart, Stuart. You can call me, you can email me, sally.stewart@linkbusiness.com.au, sally.stewart888@gmail.com, or 0437082045. I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Fantastic. And I'll put all of those details of Sally's into the show notes, along with both our checklists, so you can start working through them today. Now, if you found this episode valuable, make sure you hit follow on your podcast app so you don't miss the next one. And if you know a business owner who's thinking about selling in the next couple of years, please send them this episode. It could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to them. Until next time, I'm Sam Penny, and this has been Built to Sell, Built to Buy, helping you sell smart, buy right, and build something extraordinary.